Okay, welcome to the first installment of Photoshop for Phil. The first thing I want to just talk about is your basic tools, memorizing the shortcut for each one of the tools. It's probably one of the best things you can do in for Photoshop because it helps immensely. In fact, I sometimes have a problem using other applications because I try and use Photoshop shortcuts and they don't work, which frustrates the hell out of me. The first one is Marque, which is M. You can see that light up. The second one is V for the move tool. Next one, L for lasso. W for the wand. Okay. C for crop. B for brush. E for eraser. G for fill or gradient. S for the clone stamp tool. T for text. U for line or shape or path or polygon. And Z for zoom. When zooming, if you just click with your left mouse button. When you want to zoom out, you hold Control and click. Almost all of the tools have different options depending upon if you use Shift, Control, and Alt, along with left click activating the tool. Another thing that's very important is your layer palette. This is what really sets Photoshop apart from designing in Paint. Create a new document, and then I'm going to add a new layer. At the bottom of the layer palette we have layer style or effect, layer mask, a new set. A new set is basically just a folder, and you can put multiple layers inside a folder. You can put multiple folders inside a folder. So this way you can actually control your layers a lot better. What I usually like to do is if I have text layers, I put all my text layers in a text folder. If I have backgrounds, I put my backgrounds in a background folder. If I have intermediate elements, which are throughout the design, I put them in their own separate folder. Another important thing about that is that you can toggle the entire folder off at one time, so you can turn all the text off. You have adjustment layer, filler, adjustment layer, add a new layer, and then trash. So you can delete a layer like that, or you can drag a layer down and then delete it. If you need to make a new layer, you can take your current layer and drag it down to the copy, and that will make a copy of that layer. Okay, I will move on to the line tool. U for the line tool, you want to make sure that you're drawing fill pixels. There's three different options. There's shape layer, there's paths, and there's fill pixels. So you want to make sure that you're on fill pixels. You can select your weight right here. Now I can click a point and drag. If you hold down Shift, your line will lock to 45-degree angles. Increments of 45. So that's handy to know. So there's a 1 pixel line. There's a 10 pixel line. If you want to do arrows, what you need to do is click on this little drop down, and then arrowheads. We can go start. You can change the width and length and the concavity depending upon what you like. Just kind of have to play with these values. So there's with the current values. I usually set mine up with 1,000 and 500, and I usually like the way that arrow is pretty decent. Doesn't look too flat like that one. If you want to do on both ends, boxes and other shapes are also in the same palette. A square, if I hold down Shift, it will lock to. If I hold down Shift, it'll lock to being completely square. It won't go rectangular. If you hold down Alt, it sizes from the center instead of from the corner where you started the drawing. So that way, if you needed to create a box but you want its center, you want to create from its center instead of its corner. The reason why the layer palette is so important is that you want to create on multiple layers, like I was saying before. Like right here, I've created everything on one single layer. Now if I want to add a layer effect, like let's say I want to add a drop shadow, and just kind of bump it up a little bit, throw a distance. Now the thing is that all of my shapes, everything has the exact same drop shadow. And maybe I want to add more drop shadows to this one, or less to these elements. Well, the problem is I put everything on one single layer. So what we need to do is create a new layer, or even better yet, what I can do is I can take the same layer and then copy it down, and now I've got a direct copy of my first layer. I'll turn my first layer off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit M for the Marque tool, and then I'm going to use that to mask out a certain area. I'm going to hit E for the eraser tool, and then use the square brackets to increase my brush size. From here, I'm just going to blast everything that's inside my Marque area. Once again, I'm going to hit M for Marque, right click, and then deselect. I can arrow down my effects for this layer and then toggle the effects so I can turn my drop shadow off. I can, using Z to zoom in and then clicking the left mouse, I can see and get a better view of what I'm working on. At any time when you're working in your document, if you hold down the space bar, you'll get the hand, then left click, and you can actually move. You can move whatever you want to in the visible window. So once again, hitting the M for Marque, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of line it up to this edge, and I'm going to hit up here, E for erase, M for Marque, right click, deselect, and then use my Marque again, E for erase, M for Marque, deselect. Okay, now you can see I've got one layer that just has my squares on it, and then I've got my other layer, my original layer.